Easy all day.
The hour of 6 p.m. has arrived. I call to order this regular meeting of the Finance Organization and Personnel Committee. This meeting is being broadcast live on the City of Keene YouTube channel and Channel 1302. The video is also streamed on the city's website and is posted on the website by the end of the next business day, barring any technical difficulties. Copies of the printed agenda are available in the wall pockets as you enter the meeting room. The public and other city councilors will be recognized to ask questions and make comments on the agenda item under discussion. After being recognized, all remarks will be made through the chair. I will not recognize an individual a second time until everyone who wishes has a chance to speak. Anyone who wishes to address the committee is asked to go to one of the microphones in the room and identify themselves by name and address prior to speaking. Written comments from the public will be accepted at the city clerk's office until Tuesday at 1 p.m. Our minute taker participates remotely. Committee members, remember to turn on your microphones when speaking. And if the minute taker is unable to hear us, she will ask us to speak louder or turn on our microphones. Mr. Remy is en route from the airport. I think so. Yes.
Oh, wow.
All right, so item number 1 is a contract award, the fire department.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and other councilors. This first item request is for a recommendation to authorize the city manager to execute a contract with Spec Rescue International to provide specialty trench rescue technician training. The fire department was awarded funding from the 2022 AFG grant for this training. An RFP was sent out, and after review, the fire department recommends to award Spec Rescue International in the amount, or award the RFP to Spec Rescue International in the amount of $80,001. They are a reputable company. We've used them for training in the past. So I'd be happy to answer any questions if.
Questions? I want to know how they come up with just $1 or
Yeah.
52 cents in all these grants. Somebody's working hard to do that. Well, tells you what, never mind. It's your turn.
Move to recommend that the city council authorize the city manager to execute, a contract with Spec Rescue International to provide specialty trench rescue technician training. The funding source is account 40G00222, and then in parentheses, FD2022AFG trench rescue.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion, members of the committee? Seeing none, all in favor? No one's opposed, that's unanimous. And the second one is a Homeland Security grant.
Asking for a recommendation to accept funds from the Homeland Security Grant in June 2024. We were notified that we've been awarded no more than the amount of $2,925 for members to attend overtime and backfill training in specialized disciplines. The grant reimburses personnel salaries and benefits to send the students to the training and will also backfill on-duty members to go to the training. There is no match required by the city. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Questions up here? Members of the public? All right. Motion.
Move to recommend that the city manager be authorized to do all things necessary to accept and expend the State Homeland Security Program Award, DHS, approved training for locals in the amount of up to $2,925. The funding source is account 40G00224, FDFY 2024 FSTEMS Hazmat Training.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Any further discussion, members of the committee? Seeing none, all in favor? No one's opposed, that's unanimous.
Thank you.
Thanks, Chief. Mr. Director.
Mr. Chair.
Oh, no, more paper.
I sent you an email on this, but I found an error in the motion, so I Thank you, Mr. Chair. Don Lucier, Public Works Director. And for the record, I'm going to blame my staff for any and all mistakes that are found. Yeah, so I handed the committee just a amendment to the motion that's in your memo. The amended text is in bold. It adds one cost center that I forgot to list, and I mean my staff forgot to list in the memo that you have in front of you tonight. So a little bit of history is in order, I think. This is the third contract with Stantec for the downtown reconstruction infrastructure project. They were originally selected through a qualifications-based process for the concept phase project. That's when we were working with a steering committee. We had a bunch of meetings, a lot of public engagement, and basically just trying to solve some of those really first-level, first-order questions about what we wanted to do with this project. After that, the City Council selected what we called the hybrid option for the downtown. That's the basically they decided they were going to include bike lanes. We're going to redo the traffic pattern the way it currently is with a signal and sort of keeping the general configuration of the square. So we kind of made those first order decisions after that. The last year and a little bit, we've spent basically doing what we called the preliminary design contract. We did a lot of public engagement, a lot of meetings, a lot of workshops and whatnot. And we refined that plan to put a lot more detail into it. And that culminated on July 18th with the City Council voting for the preliminary design plan that we presented, right? So now we know, okay, we've got the bike lanes and here's where they're going. The sidewalk widths are going to be about this. We've got this much space dedicated for sidewalk commerce. We have a real good sense of the lane configuration, the parking numbers, the number of trees that are going to be taken out and replaced and what have you. So we've gone a long way down that process. The contract that's in front of you tonight is the final design. So this basically takes that real clear, pretty picture that we have and turns it into buildable construction documents, detailed specifications, a big, thick project manual that will become the contract for the 3-year construction project. There's still quite a bit of work to do. There's geotechnical investigations. There's permitting requirements. So the work is definitely not over, and obviously that's reflected in the cost of the contract. I do want to point out the original preliminary design contract ended up, we're going to be about $400,000 under budget on that contract. Part of that is because about $200,000 of the work that was originally planned to happen during preliminary design is getting pushed forward into the contract that you're looking at tonight. So that drove up tonight's number, but also accounted for some of the underspending on the preliminary design. Specifically, that's the geotechnical investigations and some of the inspections of the subsurface utilities. The other thing I should point out that that number that you see tonight is still under negotiation. We were given this preliminary estimate on Monday afternoon, and we're reviewing it in some close detail right now. There are some numbers in there that I can tell you I'm going to want to negotiate a little bit. For example, they're carrying about $200,000 of their effort for public engagement and outreach during final design. And that's going to happen. There's going to be some public engagement during final design. But I also think that at this point, we've done a lot of public engagement. We've gotten good community consensus. You heard it at the council meeting a couple weeks ago, that there was a lot of consensus building, a lot of compromising. We know what we're building at this point. The public engagement now is really twofold. It's some fit and finish type stuff, picking the light poles and the trash receptacles. That's relatively low cost. And then a lot of it is where we need to get additional information about specific properties. At this point, we've been into, I believe, every single basement that's within the project limits. But if we need to go back in to measure the elevation of the sewer outfall to make sure that those grades are going to work, or figure out where we're going to put the drainage connection for the roof drains. There's time budgeted in there for that. And also, as part of that public engagement is the construction management, construction phasing, construction communication piece. We started that effort already with some meetings at the public library a few weeks ago. And that's really geared towards sort of making this process tolerable for the folks that live and work within the project limits. So, trying to structure the hours of construction and the rules regarding traffic control and parking limitations so that they work for everyone as best as we possibly can. So certainly there's going to be some public engagement, but I don't know that we need $200,000 worth of public engagement during this phase. So that's an element that, we can negotiate on. So I also said, that's a pretty big number. So I wanted to have a little bit basis of comparison. So we looked at the Winchester Street project that was recently completed. And for comparison purposes, that project, all in with the preliminary design, the right-of-way, the final design and everything, we paid about 12% of the construction cost in engineering fees for that one. After it's all said and done, based on the expected savings for the preliminary design and this contract as it's valued today, we're looking at about 14.1% of the construction project total. I'd like to see that closer to like the 12.5%, and we're going to try to negotiate that down a little bit. But I also recognize that this project was a lot more complicated and involved substantially more public engagement, meetings, graphics, that sort of thing than we did for the Winchester Street. So it is a more complicated project, both complicated for sure. But this is definitely an order of magnitude more complicated. So I'm not terribly surprised to see the final design cost is going to be a little higher than that one in terms of percentage of construction. And that's pretty much what I had to say about it, and I'd love to take your questions.
It's in front of me, I just didn't turn it on. Move to recommend that the city manager be authorized to do all things necessary, negotiate and execute a professional service agreement with Sunset Consulting Services, Inc. for the amount not to exceed $1,230,000 for the final design phase of the downtown infrastructure project. The funding source will be split between the general fund, the water fund, and the sewer fund through the following accounts: Downtown Infrastructure Improvement, 75J0034A, Stormwater Resiliency Program, 75M00623, Sewer Improvement Program 32M10222, and Water Disposition Improvement Program 34ML0222.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion up here? Yes, sir.
Mr. Chair, excuse me, just a note for the minute taker. I believe Councilor Roberts said 32M10222.
I said L.
It actually is an I. I know, you can't tell. You can't
I can
tell.
tell.
I
That's
know.
a pretty,
Yeah, we're going to have to talk about our standard fonts.
that's a pretty
Yeah.
L. But we'll change it. I will change it to I, make sure. 34MI20222.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
I'm going to pick on you just like I picked on Court, is that to get you out of engineer speak. And basically, what you were trying to tell is that we have a plan right now, but as soon as You can go into the ground and you can look at the water, you can look at the sewer lines and everything. All those things have a possibility of making things change.
That is certainly true. That is certainly true. The contract for final design includes a lot of precautionary type work that we're doing in order to minimize those unexpected conditions. You know, we're over the next few months, we'll be doing some subsurface investigations. So we're going to be actually potholing, what you know, the engineers speak, basically just excavating very small holes at critical locations where, for example, a drainage pipe and a sewer pipe cross. Well, you can't have those, you know, you can't just go up and over the other one, right? So the elevations for those are very critical. At those critical points, we're going to be opening it up, taking measurements so we know in advance exactly where everything is at. But I guarantee you we're going to find stuff that we don't know about that's not on any map. You know, it'll be an interesting archaeological adventure.
I just wanted to get out the engineer speak, because when we have something like this,
It's very hard for me, Counselor.
we'll get you there.
All right.
Anything else? All right. Everybody ready to vote? All in favor? Anybody opposed? It's unanimous.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thanks. Next item is fire damage repairs to transfer station.
Good evening, Duncan Watson, Assistant Public Works Director, Solid Waste Manager. This will definitely be very non-engineering. The building burned again, and we got to repair it. We had a fire, you probably are well aware of this, back in May. We had a series of 3 fires on the facility, but the second of the 3 fires actually damaged the transfer station to the point where it needs to be repaired, and we're here tonight to ask for a authority to negotiate and execute a sole source contract with Project Resource Group. Project Resource Group was the firm that fixed our transfer station the last time that it burned. And the reason that we want to go forward with this at this point is that, number one, the contractor is available, and number two, we don't want to wait until springtime to start construction because we want to get this work done before snow flies. So everything is lining up well with this. It was a pleasant surprise to find out that Project Resource Group had availability. They did a great job the last time around. And we're moving forward with we've got a professional services contract with an engineering firm that originally designed the facility to do the plans and specifications for the repair work. We have a construction administrator lined up to oversee the repair work. And now the last part of this equation is getting the contractor in to help us get the repairs done prior to the onset of winter. The funding will be mostly insurance proceeds. There'll be a small deductible that we'll have to pay. And then in the larger question, you know, without getting too deep into this, one of the things we're looking at ways to make sure that this doesn't happen again. And you know, the fact is that it's most likely happened because of spontaneous combustion of incompatibles mixed into the waste stream. And we're in a difficult position because we're at the end of the pipe and the problem starts at the beginning of the pipe. And it's very difficult because, you know, lithium batteries in particular, which is, you know, what we're particularly concerned about, can be extremely small. And mixed in with a load of waste, it would be basically a needle in the haystack to try to find them. We actually have, you know, we installed a deluge system the last time that we had a fire to help, you know, fight any future fires, and that system worked really well. And we're looking at ways of trying to not have future fires, and we'll be doing a series of public service announcements to try to get people to understand, you know, that when you mix incompatible waste into the waste stream, it can have bad results. But we're also taking some operational steps to try to prevent the fuel of the fire, which is the trash, from being that critical mass that can create a damaging situation. So we're making some operational changes. We have a new contract that'll be coming up in January, with a new transporter and disposal outfit, and we'll be working with them to make sure that we have the resources that we need to ensure that we don't put that much waste into the transfer station at any one time that provides the source of the fire fuel.
Questions? Duncan, Could you tell the folks that are watching from the outside a little bit of what you've been doing to try to eliminate some of the bad waste? Like you've got a battery platform now, and you continue to have hazardous waste disposal available. I mean, there are a lot of steps that have been taken to make it as safe as possible. Now we got to get people to use it.
Yeah, I think that, in general, we do, as you mentioned, we have 24 household hazardous waste collections a year that Keene citizens and people from the surrounding communities that sign up can access. On a daily basis, you can bring lithium-ion batteries to our facility and get rid of them for no charge. But being realistic about that, those programs probably capture a fairly small fraction of that waste stream, and this stuff is going to continue to be disposed of in the waste stream, and it's going to be incumbent upon us to try to take operational steps to reduce when these occurrences happen in the future, where you'd have spontaneous combustion, because it's not just lithium batteries; it can be stuff from your workshop. We had the last fire happen during COVID when people were cleaning out their garages and basements. And so, this is an ongoing problem and one that is not, exclusive to Keene. There's fires being reported all the time with these new technologies that we have. And I'm not sure they're going to be necessarily creating safer batteries, so we're going to have to take steps on the end of the pipe to try to deal with this. But yes, we do have ways of getting rid of these things safely and effectively for those who would like to access that.
Thank you.
Move to recommend that the city sorry.
Mayor.
Saving me and giving me an opportunity to ask for more clarification on batteries. I happen to have a bag of batteries. I don't necessarily sort out the lithium from the dry cell, but nonetheless, would you just inform me and by way of this, the public, with how it is that we dispose of all batteries, and if they're hazardous, if they're all considered hazardous material?
Sure. Thank you for the question, Mayor. To try to keep it, relatively simple, the rule of thumb is that if it's a rechargeable style of battery, those are the batteries that we're concerned about. Nickel, cadmium, lithium ion, those lead acid batteries. We have outlets for them, and we have disposal areas for them located at the solid waste division. And there are also places to get rid of batteries in other locations around the city. But your household batteries, your normal AAAs, AA's, D cells, those are not considered to be hazardous anymore. They've reformulated the batteries over the years to remove the mercury in them. That was the concern. But a household battery does not represent a potential spontaneous combustion item, and those can be disposed of in the trash.
So if I go to, like, for example, it's going to be a rhetorical question, but if I go to Walmart and buy a package of batteries, if they're lithium or dangerous, they'll have a trash bin with a circle, a slash right across to say that not to be disposed. And so that would be the key. If they have a question, you buy batteries, what does the packaging tell you?
I think the packaging does have a warning label on it. So the deal is on a lithium battery in particular, which is where we've had most of the problems in the solid waste world. It's the battery itself isn't the problem. It's when the casing of the battery gets compromised and then it gets exposed to water. It creates a chemical reaction that is you can look it up on YouTube. Just look up lithium battery in water and see what happens. It is actually quite shocking to see how a small battery can create, a fairly large explosion in addition to fire. So yeah, they're all going to have warning labels on them, but I guess whether people read those warnings or not is questionable. When somebody has something that they don't want and they want to throw it away, they just want to throw it away, and that's where we're running into the problems.
Counselor.
Ed Haas, 114 Jordan Road. Thank you. Duncan, I've reinforced everything you said, but I just want to emphasize, lithium batteries aren't necessarily hazardous. So the things we have in our phones and in our small devices, they're fine. Handle them well, dispose of them correctly, but they're not to worry. However, everything else, everything larger than that, don't leave them plugged in overnight at home. They can heat up, especially if in there an unfortunate arrangement, they can result in fire in your homes. But your typical phones and small lights and such, they're fine. Don't worry about them. But worry about everything else and dispose of things properly. Thank you.
All right. We're all set?
As Duncan said, there's lots of other places through the city. I take mine to Home Depot. They have a depository there where you can drop, it's a big bin that you can drop your batteries in. Move to recommend that the city manager be authorized to do all things necessary to negotiate and execute with Project Resource Group for repair of the fire damage at the Keene Transfer Station for an amount not to exceed $440,000. The funding source is the insurance proceeds, less the $1,000 deductible.
Second.
Okay, so moved and seconded. Any further discussion by the members of the committee? Seeing none, all in favor? No one's opposed, unanimous.
Thank you kindly.
Thanks, Duncan. Board memberships. That's yours?
Apparently. This is what happens when you don't show up at a meeting.
Yep.
In any event, I've been having discussions with these issues with the mayor and the city clerk. So basically, most of the ordinances, as you can see, just clarifying and cleaning up some of the language and appointment with respect to the membership. The Ashwillet Park Advisory Board, to make it clear that the members are appointed by the mayor is provided in the charter, because the Ashwillet River Park Advisory Board is a city board. There used to be a Friends of the Ashwillet River Park, but that is a separate entity. So that was to clarify on that. On the Human Rights Committee, also clarification language, removing the ex officio reference to representing the Keene Public Library, because there's no particular ex officio there to have sit in that spot. Currently, I understand it's the library director who sits in that spot, but it also adds for a member of the city council and also the membership through the charter. The difficulty sort of in this ordinance arises under Division 18, Historic District Commission. That language that is being proposed is not entirely, well, is not accurate under the statute, unfortunately. So we're going to be requesting that this section of the ordinance, proposed ordinance amendment be stricken so that we can take a look at this again. Unfortunately, we're gonna have to come back on that one. And the Division 22, the Agricultural Commission, that eliminates the commission that has been dormant for many years. Some of you who have been around for a while know that we had discussed the possibility of eliminating the Agricultural Commission quite a number of years ago. So that's just to accomplish that and to take it out of the Code of Ordinances. And then finally, the Congregate Living and Social Services Licensing Board, that changes the membership too. It also removes, in particular, it removes an administrative official of the city from that board. So those are the proposed changes. So I would suggest an amendment, and the mayor may also want to speak to this, obviously, but I would be proposing that the ordinance be amended in two places. The first is under the "be it ordained" clause, the reference to the Historic District Commission after where it says 2-991 semicolon, by removing the stricken text and inserting the bolded text in Division 18 Historic District Commission. There should have been a semicolon after commission, but that text needs to be deleted, and then the entire reference to Division 18, the Historic District Commission, should be deleted. Happy to answer questions.
Questions here?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The first, maybe just a note, on the Human Rights Committee, it reads, "One member shall be represent the Keene Public Library." I think
yeah.
just a Scribner's error
Yeah,
there.
take out the B.
The B should be stricken out
Yeah.
as well. So
Shall
just a,
represent.
yes.
Yes.
So a couple of questions. So you commented on the member shall be appointed by the mayor being added on here. Since they are city boards, committees, commissions, that's already granted by the charter, is it not? It just seems maybe a little superfluous to me, but is there a rationale for
No, I think that's a good
clarifying?
point. You know, I think that's a good catch. You know, that wasn't language actually that I drafted and put in there, but you're right. Under Charter Section 29, all members of boards and commissions, with the exception of certain ones, are appointed by the mayor. That's true. It's superfluous.
Okay. Thank you, City Attorney. So I may end up making a motion on that one just to clean that up, shorten it up a little bit. The other question I had, though, was on the Ashwellet Board and the Congregate Living Board. They were both changed to say may represent,
Yes.
or one member may be a member of the planning board for the Congregate Living one. It seems very ambiguous that it could just be anybody, so I don't know why we would say may be a part of this organization or that, especially since, it said shall before. Hoping maybe there can be some elaboration on why we'd move to may, or should that just be stricken from those entirely, or reverted back to shall? I'm not sure I understand the intent there.
Yeah, and speaking to that, I think that the rationale for that is we sometimes, and we did this up in the Historic District Commission one as well, we sometimes suggest to the boards that they consider members from different places or different organizations. So I suspect that was the intent of that, was for the Congregate Living and Social Services Licensing Board as a board, to consider recommending somebody from the planning board to the mayor for appointment. That would be the reason for the may clause, rather than the shall clause. And that's not unusual in some of these other places, like under the Building Code Board of Appeal. It states in that ordinance that, there should be considered these types of folks to be placed on that board with specific kinds of expertise. So that would be the reason under Congregate Living, and I suspect probably the same under, you said the Ashwellet River. Let me take a quick look at that.
May represent the Conservation Commission.
Yeah, again, I think that's the same purpose, same reason for it.
If I may continue, so on actually in the HDC specifically, it does use the word should rather than may adhere to those, which to me seems to give very clear direction that the membership should include all of those. And so if we as a body we're looking at these, it's very clear that the HDC should have all of those. So I wonder if in those two adjustments to have it be may represent, maybe say should represent. That way there's still some ambiguity where if the mayor has some rationale for why it isn't that board, it should be, but it gives some opening there rather than it may be, because I don't know, to me it seems very, very open, but maybe I'm being a little nitpicky there.
I don't know, I guess parsing the language a little bit, when somebody uses the word should, from my perspective, you should do that. That's like a command. You should be conscious of that. That means you better be conscious of it. It's certainly up to you and the committee and the council, but I look at should as much more of a directive than that, as kind of an opportunity. It really is more directive from my perspective.
Mr. Mayor?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So I think that the counselor's raising really good points. What I found is, relative to making appointments, is that if you're already on a commission, you've taken on an obligation. You didn't take on the obligation of serving on another commission. And so those seats have been hard to fill, hence the may. I think that the language, if I would go back to legislative intent, And the historic district is a good one to work with. The legislation authorization for historic district commissions is very prescriptive. And it's making it almost impossible to fill enough of those positions on the Historic District Commission to achieve a quorum. So I think I appreciate where we've landed. Let's take that out from consideration tonight. There are too many what-ifs. So I think then what has worked its way into city code then is language that resembles legislative intent, the statutory intent, that we're trying to pick up those intended memberships, and they too become difficult. We've got a problem with the planning board, that it should be a city staff member, and that's been very difficult to fill. And with the congregate living, there are only 5 members to it. So if we have a difficulty finding the conditional member, then the quorum becomes difficult. So that's why let's drop the city staff and just make it an at-large member of the community with 5, easier to achieve 3 in the quorum. That's the intent there, and similarly with the Ashwilla River Park, to not have to condition it to require a Conservation Commission member to have to fill that additional seat. There too, with the number of people that are required to be in a quorum there, that makes that group difficult, and it's difficult to fill those slots. Thank you.
Put your changes into it as you read it.
Sure, yeah. Should I?
I would suggest just summarizing them again for everybody, all of us, to what we're going to do before we put it into a motion.
Yeah, certainly. So, and to clarify, should we make the amendments prior to moving to recommend the adoption?
It would be recommended adoption and then move to amend, right? But
Recommend the adoption,
right,
sure.
exactly. But before we even go to recommend for adoption, let's make sure we're all clear.
Yeah. So there's two amendments that I'd be looking to make, which is to strike Division 18, the Historic District Commission entirely, strike that section, as well as striking from by removing the stricken text and inserting the bolded text in Division 18 Historic District Commission by deleting Division.
Nope. Stop there. There should be a
Oh, yes.
semicolon after commission.
Yes.
Right.
So that's where I'll stop when
Right.
I actually make the motion there.
Exactly.
So removing those 2 sections.
Yep.
That's one thing, just to get rid of the HDC from this. Then I'd also afterwards be looking to change this to remove the member shall be appointed by the mayor as provided in the charter, section 29, from both 652 and 991.
Exactly.
Okay.
Everyone follow along there? Very good. Okay. So, move to recommend the adoption of ordinance O 2024-05A.
Second.
All right, it's been moved and seconded. Discussion. Yes, sir.
I would like to make those motions now. So the first motion, I'd like to move to strike by removing the stricken text and inserting the bolded text in Division 18 Historic District Commission from the be it ordained clause, as well as removing Division 18 HDC from below as well.
Second.
Okay, been moved and seconded. Take them one at a time. Further discussion? All in favor? All opposed? That's unanimous.
And then, second motion here, move to strike members shall be appointed by the mayor as provided in the charter, section 29, from section 652, as well as members shall be appointed by the mayor as provided in the charter, section 29, from section 2991.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Further discussion? All in favor? No one's opposed.
You have to move the ordinance as amended as a B version.
All right.
So move to recommend the adoption of ordinance O 2024-05B as amended.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Further discussion? Yes, we got it. All in favor? No one's opposed, unanimous. You said that to me. All right. So our next item is class allocation. Yes, ma'am.
Good evening, Assistant City Manager, HR Director Beth Fox. I am here requesting the committee's support on O-24-12, which is an ordinance related to the salary allocation and the class allocation and salary schedules for the non-union employees at the city. What is proposed is adding a job title to the schedule, which is the job title of Deputy Revenue Collector. We are doing some restructuring of responsibilities in that department and creating this position. What is proposed is create this position of Deputy Revenue Collector, which will be responsible basically for the, what I will call the front office, customer-facing operations and supervising those personnel on a day-to-day basis, leaving the revenue collector to be able to focus on the larger operational issues of the department and the reconciliations and the billing and other issues that they deal with that are beyond the day-to-day customer interactions, of which there are significant numbers. I think all of you have probably been there and know. So that is the proposal, so it's fairly straightforward, and I'm happy to answer any questions that the councilors may have.
Questions up here? So really, to make sure everybody understands, we're not adding any employees, we're just changing the classification
Yeah,
to reflect the responsibilities that have been added.
yes.
Okay.
Move to recommend the adoption of ordinance 02024-12.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? All in favor? No one's opposed, that's unanimous. And the last one, city attorney functions and powers.
We could have taken an hour and a half on this one, right?
We can. We're not going to.
That's all right, I can leave, you still got a quorum.
Are we keeping you out too
So-
late? Which-
I guess maybe I'm kicking this one off. Sure. So, as you know, we've been faced with the retirement and then return of the city attorney in a part-time capacity, which has been helpful as we transition, but we are now at the point where we're going to move forward and initiate a recruitment process. The first step in that process was to take a look at the components of city code that address the functions and powers of the city attorney. And the city attorney, who's been very helpful in updating those for the council's consideration. They, I think, were last reviewed in about 2006 or 2000. It was a long time ago.
But only two kind of minor
Yes.
changes. I think it was 1998 the last time this was
Wow.
updated.
So I think there is a potential amendment that either the city manager or the city attorney, I think, can also review to one of the bullet points in this draft. So there'll be an amended version, I think, for consideration.
And if you don't mind, Chair, just a couple things to point out. Most of the proposals, let me back up just for a second. For all three charter officers, there is a sort of a functions and powers section in the city code of ordinances, just so for the public. We're also referenced, the three charter officers are also referenced in the city charter. So these proposed changes are for insertion into a section that already exists in the city code of ordinances. So this is not something new that's going into the city code. A lot of this comes from, maybe redrafted a little bit from the prior position description, especially with respect to the role of an attorney within the city, and, advising the city council on law and rules and whatever, conducting litigation, that sort of thing. The one thing that I do want to point out in particular is number 9. When I came on board, it was sort of the practice that I inherited as part of the general powers of the city attorney to enter into settlement agreements. And that was always fine. To explain that, most of the time, the settlement agreements that we enter into are fairly routine matters. They may be debt collection matters, they may be, matters involved in some land use litigation or something like that. But I wanted to make clear that the city attorney should have the authority to enter into those settlement agreements, because generally they have to happen fairly quickly, and generally they're fairly low risk from the city's perspective. But I did want to make it clear that if there's the payment of funds required, that's something that the city attorney should be bringing to the city council for approval. Now, I have always done that because, quite frankly, it's just never thought it was within my authority to obligate the city to pay any money in those kinds of settlement agreements. But also remembering that there are settlement agreements that outside legal counsel enters into through Primex. So this would not include those, and also does not include settlement agreements with respect to tax abatement applications and processes. That's really within the expertise and their purview of the city assessor at that point. So that's why I wanted to point out that change in particular. Now, the other thing that we're suggesting is, back to Councilor Lake, sort of, doesn't need to be that wordy. In section 11, it's in the document, it's sufficient to just put a period after departments. So it reads, provide advice, legal counsel, and other assistance to the city manager and departments. All of the rest of that is sort of implied in what happens with that. So the suggestion there is, let's just take out, put a period after departments and take all of the rest of it out at this point. So that would be the proposed amendment to this. And so that's my proposal.
Okay.
I also don't know if it would be appropriate to also talk a little bit about the schedule that we expect to move forward. Are we running?
Just going to suggest that,
Yeah.
before we get to the motion on the ordinance.
Yes. So, assuming that the committee moves this forward with a favorable recommendation, the hope would be that the city council would adopt this section of code at its meeting next week. We will then move to starting to draft advertisements and begin to publish that we're seeking candidates for the position. We are shooting to try to hit the New Hampshire bar advertising date, which is, I think, the second week in August. That's a publication where, since we're looking for someone who licensed to practice law in New Hampshire, is, I think, key to our recruitment effort. We're also probably likely to post this position in the Massachusetts Bar Association and at the municipal venues throughout northern New England. Assuming that we make those dates, we'd expect a mid-September close, probably around September 22nd. That would give the council the ability to consider candidates that applied for the position and consider what candidates they want to move to the interview stage at their first meeting in October. And then assuming that plan advances like we hope, we're looking at probably the third week in October, the week of October 20th, is a week that we would try to schedule initial interviews with the candidates that the council wishes to meet with.
And just final comments on that.
To assist in this, which really is an administrative process, but to assist in it, the mayor and the 3 committee chairs will participate with the human resources director and sort of working through those administrative issues. But I want to make it, clear for everybody that, the 3 committee chairs and the mayor
aren't going to be sort of making decisions in that kind of respect with respect to, the applicants or anything like that. That will all be a function that's reserved for the city council. So, it's not acting as an advisory body to the city council, it's really acting as an assistant to the human resources director from a staff perspective.
Questions up here?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just a quick question on a section that was actually removed. So section 14 read, review and resolve any contradictions and inconsistencies in city ordinances during their amending process and as otherwise required. Wondering if your feeling is maybe that's covered by maybe like section 6 here, or if maybe there was other rationale for removing that section. It seems like a noble cause that we'd want to pursue, so I'm just interested in your thoughts there.
That was actually a city clerk request to do that, and I think that you're precisely right, that really does fall into the drafting of the ordinances, resolutions, and such. We, as a matter of course, try and pick up these inconsistencies and that sort of thing, and you really can't undertake a process of the ordinance review and that without doing that, so it just appeared to be superfluous, so we just decided, it doesn't need to be in there.
Okay. Mr. Mayor?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So I just want to add to what I think has been well presented by the city attorney and human resources director, that this position, the city attorney's position, is a charter officer position. Obviously, it is a position that by our guiding documents is an appointee of the city council. And I want to reassure committee members and all other members of the council and the public that what's been presented tonight has been vetted with me and the 3 committee chairs. We asked for this, the assistance of the city attorney to update this document, the job position description, because it needed that before we went out for advertising. We've collaborated together to talk about a schedule that's workable, and we think we have a process to bring the applicants to the attention of the city council in stages so that we can review those applicants, narrow those down, and achieve the objective of finding eligible candidates for interview in late October. So just wanted to provide that assurance that there'll be that kind of consultation and direction from the council.
Mr. Chairman, agree with everything the mayor said. Just to avoid any possible confusion, it's not the 3 committee chairs and the mayor who will sort of sift through the applications. Those will all go up to the city council, and it will be up to the city council to make a decision as to which ones you would like to have the city pursue.
We're going to alphabetize them.
Well, this time, we're going to do it differently.
Yeah, so council members just plan for some long meetings. We got some coming up. All right, we need to,
On that note, thank you. I think, personally, because as the counselor has pointed out, and I agree, the change to section 11 after the period after departments is just superfluous language. It's not really adding or deleting any substance to it. I don't think you need an A version on this thing.
you read my mind. Okay, whose motion is this? All right.
I don't need to do an amendment.
Nope.
Or a B or A.
Nope.
Move to recommend the adoption of ordinance O-2024-13.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion up here? All in favor? No one's opposed. It's unanimous. Thank you. That's the end of our agenda, so we are adjourned.